Good evening and welcome. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call our regularly scheduled board meeting to order. And we are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by our friends, our Rose Hill Rockets. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Could you all come around and introduce yourselves and maybe tell us your favorite class and or your favorite school lunch item?
Hi, I'm Jen Duke. I'm the principal at Rose Hill. I'm here with my student council friends, and my favorite school lunch item is something I bring from home usually.
That's my lead. I'm the principal.
I'm Savannah Pedigo, and my favorite subject is integrated math, and I just bring lunch.
My name is Lily Kakel. My favorite subject is social studies, and I bring lunch from home.
My name's Joanna Norman. My favorite subject is social studies, and I bring lunch from home.
My name is Lucinda Caldwell, and I like the milk. The milk is really good. And my favorite subject is math.
And I'm Brian Quick, and my favorite food is food that I order out and spend way too much money on.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here and sharing your time with us and leading us in the pledge. Have a good evening. All right, we need to adopt the agenda. If there are no changes, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Elsie.
And second?
Second, Hembry.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have 2 minutes, 2 sets of minutes, 1.4 and agenda item 1.5. And if there are no changes, let's approve in one motion. Do I have a approval?
So moved, Elsie.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Boyd Nerona.
Right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Hubbard, we are at our superintendent's report, item 2.1.
Absolutely. So I begin tonight with updates from our biotechnology signature program. Elizabeth Barnes, Shawnee Mission West sophomore, was recently named a 2024 National STEM Challenge Champion, Student Innovator, and is the only representative from the state of Kansas selected to go to the inaugural National STEM Festival in Washington, D.C. Less than 200 national champions were selected to present in D.C. Champions will showcase their projects to some of the nation's most influential leaders. Barnes' research analysis and quantifies the amount of microplastics found in sand samples from around the world. The biotechnology program is also celebrating the fact that 3 students qualified for the National Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. Mia Stamos, Tayton DeGarmo, and Elizabeth Barnes qualified among a pool of 150 submissions and are preparing for nationals in May. Congratulations to these students and to Dr. Kenneth Lee and Zuma Perez Estrella, Biotechnology Signature Program instructors. Next, the Kansas Interscholastic Athletic Administration Association has honored 2 Shawnee Mission athletic directors. Annette Gonzalez, Athletic Director at Shawnee Mission North, was selected as the Athletic Director of the Year for District 3. And Mark Mahoney, Athletic Director at Shawnee Mission South, was honored with the Art Newcomer Promising Athletic Director Award. I want to point out that the award itself is named after the Shawnee Mission Athletic Director who served Shawnee Mission East from 1965 to 1995. Both Gonzalez and Mahoney were formally recognized for the leadership they demonstrate with KIAAA organization at a banquet held this past weekend. Congratulations to both of them. We are thrilled that we have even more athletic-related honors to celebrate after a fantastic winter season. Some highlights include Indian Hills is the SMSD girls basketball champion at the middle school level. Indian Woods is the SMSD boys basketball champion at the middle school level. At the high school level, Shawnee Mission East earned a state runner-up in boys swimming. Shawnee Mission South, Grady O'Connor, who was declared state champion in the 200-yard freestyle and the 100-yard freestyle. Shawnee Mission's East 200-yard freestyle relay team were state champions. In girls state wrestling, Shawnee Mission South, Stella Segura earned a state championship, and Shawnee Mission West, Ella Weber finished as a state runner-up in their individual weight classes. Adam Hageman from Shawnee Mission Northwest was runner-up in boys wrestling in his weight class. Shawnee Mission Northwest boys basketball and Shawnee Mission South girls basketball are also celebrating state championship titles. With more than 550 middle school participants and more than 1,200 high school participants, there are always more individual and team accomplishments than we can name. We celebrate all of the athletes and coaches for an outstanding winter season, and we look forward to an amazing competition this spring. A group of 130 Shawnee Mission students and more than 80 mentors from around the city had the honor of gathering at the first women's professional sports stadium in the world to learn about and celebrate women in leadership. Female students from 5 Shawnee Mission high schools joined mentors at CPKC Stadium, home of the Kansas City Current. Shawnee Mission West has presented this popular breakfast event to students for 3 years, bringing more than 150 women together for a chance to connect and learn about serving in leadership roles. This year, 5 of Shawnee Mission's high schools were offered the Women in Leadership program to students. We are proud of all the opportunities this provides for our students to learn and connect, and that this is one of the first events held in the new Kansas City Current Stadium. We are pleased to present the next district-wide quarterly art show. This digital presentation features work created in pre-K through kindergarten classrooms from across the district during third quarter. We will have a link in the recap so that everyone can see that students and staff members have been creating. We thank all the educators across the district who contributed to this show, and we thank Megan Ellis, Visual Arts Coordinator, and Lenexa Hills Art Teacher for all of her contributions that put this show together. We look forward to hearing from her and the Performing Arts Coordinator, Dr. Bill Thomas, during their Fine Arts Department update a little later in the meeting. There is a lot to celebrate with them as we recognize the month of March being Youth Art Month. We are getting closer to the district's R&D Forum this April. We want to remind everyone that submissions for the Student Showcase are due on March 29th, 2024. The R&D Forum's Student Showcase features student work in the areas of career and technical education, fine arts, and science. We look forward to welcoming the community to see the showcase from 4 to 7 on April 23rd through the 25th. The R&D Forum will also include a Student Next Great Idea Pitch competition the morning of April the 27th, with an awards ceremony to follow later that afternoon. We always want to thank the Rainier family because their support for this event, highlighting students and staff innovation and achievement, is made possible with their help. We'll include a link in the recap with more information on how to submit the showcase and about the R&D Forum event. This month, we are glad to feature a group of students from Apache Elementary School and Shawnee Mission's next superintendent, Dr. Michael Schumacher. Let's take a look.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Mike Schumacher and I'm happy to be here today at Apache Elementary School as we explore our March Read Across Shawnee Mission theme, Celebrate Diversity. This theme gives us an opportunity to help us broaden our understanding of ourselves and others, especially the people we interact with every day. Our featured book for elementary students this month is A Crown for Corinna by Lakin Zay Kemp. In this book, we meet Corinna, who is celebrating her birthday by making a beautiful crown with flowers picked from her abuela's garden. Corinna takes great care in choosing flowers, as abuela reminds her that every flower in your crown must tell your story. Joining me today is art teacher, Miss Haley Chuddick, and a few of our Apache student artists. Inspired by Corinna, we're going to express ourselves through art. Ms. Chuddick, will you tell us what students are working on?
Yes, our students are making self-portraits that represent who they are, their experiences, and their personalities.
Tiger and Gaston, can you tell us what your self-portrait says about you?
It shows that I'm creative and I like having fun. I think it shows I'm good at drawing and my favorite color is blue.
Natalie, can you tell us what you like most about the artwork the other students have made?
I like that we're all working on the same project, but all of our art looks different by looking at the self-portraits. You get to learn where everyone was coming from.
Thank you all for sharing what you created. I love how each portrait is a different, beautiful work of art that helps us get to know each other better. A special thank you to our teacher, Ms. Chuddick, and Apache Elementary for helping us celebrate diversity. Let's read across SMSD.
So a special thank you to everyone at Apache and Dr. Schumacher. We also thank NEA Shawnee Mission for their ongoing partnership and the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation for making Read Across SMSD books available in all of our schools. Even though we have several weeks of school left, we know families are making plans for the summer. There are some great opportunities available for students in Shawnee Mission. Enrollment is now open for summer enrichment. There are classes available featuring art, music, technology, science, culinary arts, sports, theater, and more. We will include a link in the recap with session dates, location information, and details about how to enroll. The U.S. Presidential Scholars Program named 6 Shawnee Mission seniors as candidates. Each year, up to 161 students are named Presidential Scholars, one of the nation's highest honors for high school students. Shawnee Mission School District seniors named as candidates are from Shawnee Mission East, Anya Bansel, Mitchell Blair, Kel Mercer, and Catherine Murphy. From Shawnee Mission Northwest, Theodore Oley, and from Shawnee Mission South, Emma Kruger. Congratulations to those students. And now I invite Laura LaHue from Highlands Elementary to introduce the first honoree for our All-Star.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here today. We are very excited to speak a little bit about Maggie Carter. Here in Shawnee Mission, we are incredibly lucky to be around both passionate, talented educators all around us. Teachers who model meeting students where they're at, and they use both the science and art of teaching to get students to learn at high levels. We have teachers who model genuine care and commitment to forming relationships with students so they feel safe to fail, to try, to take risks. We have teachers then learning from each other and taking on the best parts of their colleagues and adapting them as their own. Through this culture of collaboration, teacher leaders rise to the surface in instructional practices and lesson design. Maggie Carter is not only one of these teacher leaders, but she's a leader that provides both elements of the wow and the how in innovation for student learning. Her wow deeply believes all students are capable of high levels of learning. She has the mindset that teachers are the most powerful and precious resource a school can have, and she's relentless in pouring into their self-efficacy, confidence, and partnership. She can be found saying, "These are our kids. We have a collective responsibility to get these kids learning together." Maggie's how is committed to building the instructional toolkit for each teacher. From high leverage Tier 1 core instruction and monitoring to high functioning PLCs to student questioning to purposeful Tier 2 response, her goal is to build the capacity of teachers so that they feel their best at what they do. When it comes to student growth, Maggie has not once excused away the data or offered external factors outside of our control as reasons why a student might not be learning. She just simply says, "Okay, how are we going to respond? Let's get rolling." She always notices the celebrations, no matter how small. She'll say, "Look at you. You are moving these kids." She does not stop showing up for teachers. With Maggie, you feel you have the ability to be the best version of yourself. With Maggie, you want to do the right work right. Maggie, you are the epitome of an all-star. Thank you for making all that work with you feel like an all-star too. And I have a couple of students that would like to say a few words.
My name is Ava, and I'm in 3rd grade, and Mrs. Carter helps students learn, and she just helps us keep on going even if it's hard. My name is Noah Schiffman, and I'm a 4th grader from Mrs. Diefendorf's class. And Maggie Carter, she is very kind to students around the building, and she helps students if they are failing or, yeah. Sorry.
My name is Yuki, and I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm in Mrs. Scheideman's class. What I like about Miss Carter is that she helps kids and helps kids test, and she sets up the things right when kids are testing in her room. And she wants children to learn and grow.
Maggie makes you feel like anything is possible.
She is awesome. She is always happy and cheerful. I don't think there's a job that Maggie can't do.
She can take a child who is on a not great path and turn it around very quickly and get him right back where he needs to go.
She's our everything lady. She always does everything. She's like the best staff in this school. She's really nice and stuff. She helps a lot of kids, and it just helps a lot.
It's my moment, and I own it. Stay in focus, and I show it.
Yes.
Yeah. Maggie helps make me be the best at my job. She helps me be the best version of myself, and for that, I'll forever be grateful.
Maggie has been a phenomenal resource for us, both as a parent and as a substitute teacher. I don't think I've ever seen her not in a positive state of mind. The children 100% feed off of that.
My energy's contagious, I'm the master of my fate. Conquering my fears, I'm in control and taking it.
She's important to the school because she helps kids, and without her, this school would just be like crazy. She's caring, inclusive, helps other kids. She helps the teachers as well.
I really don't know when she sleeps because there's constant, can I help, can I do? It brings back just that love for being in the classroom when somebody's in your corner just really cheering you on, knowing that you feel like you're in the trenches some days.
Congratulations, Maggie. This is so well deserved. I will forever be cheering you on and rooting for you.
Congratulations, Maggie. We are so lucky to have you at Highlands. You are awesome.
Thank you for all the support that you give us as teachers, but also just bringing that energy and that love every day to education makes it truly refreshing to walk in and work every day.
Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. We are all so proud of you. We are thrilled to have you in our building, and we just can't get enough of you. So please don't go anywhere anytime soon.
I'm so happy for you because you won this award, and you just deserve it. I'm really glad you won because I think you just deserved it. And I'm really happy that you're here with us.
It's my moment,
Maggie.
I just want to say how honored and grateful I am to be a part of the Shawnee Mission School District. You know, my job, I'm able to do it and do it with such ease and so well because I have such a great team rooting for me and cheering me on and working alongside me. So I could not do this job without my teachers, the students, the community, the staff, and just my colleagues here in the district. So I'm just so grateful. So thank you.
Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. I now invite Dave Ewers to introduce our next honorees this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard. That's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. I appreciate the question about school lunch earlier to the kiddos that read that did the Pledge of Allegiance for us. My answer is literally anything that they serve is my favorite meal. I eat a lot, and I always they'll tell you I'm there every day, almost every lunch period. So it's true. We periodically get emails to nominate folks for the SMSD All-Star, and it was really almost like fate. I wanted to nominate someone from our food service team, but I just couldn't find a single person. There's so many folks on this team that do such an amazing job. And then I got an email from Heidi Winkelmann, and I'm probably mispronouncing your last name, Heidi, I'm sorry. But she was like, she had the exact same thoughts that I had. There's so many great people on this team. I can't figure out who to nominate. What if we actually just nominated the entire team? And I said, this is a fantastic idea. I'll take the lead and complete the form and that type of stuff. But they do such a wonderful job. Our school's mission is we foster achievement and engagement through an equitable and inclusive culture. And they are the backbone of that. The rapport that they have with our kids, the care that they give them, the respect that our kids give them, they're such a vibrant part of our team. I'm so honored to get to work with them. I'm really so happy that they are winning this tonight. And I think we're going to get to watch a great video that shows more of why this team's so fantastic.
They are an extension of the learning environment in our building. They do engage kids. They help them achieve, mainly because they're so kind to our kids. They find ways to develop rapport with our students. Kids trust them. The amount of times I hear kids say thank you to them as they're going through the line, it's just fantastic.
Every time when you walk in, I get a positive vibe. They put pride in how they prepare their food, and I feel like they welcome the students always with a smile when they come through the cafeteria.
They meet the definition of what it means to be a team. They work together, and they are always putting the kids first. And the other thing too is I feel like they shine at showing what one Shawnee mission is, because when we were short-staffed and needed help at other schools, the team here at North said, we'll help you. Where do you need us to go? What do you need us to do to help you get all the kids at Shawnee Mission fed?
They're all just so respectful and kind, and they know everyone's name in the lunchroom. You walk through the line and they make conversation with you. It's not just they're not just there. They're there to make people happy, and I think that that's exceptional about all of them.
One person specifically, Teresa or Terry, we all call her Grams. My whole friend group since freshman year, we met her and we started going through her line specifically, and then for the past 3 years we have just been close, and we all call her Grammy or Grams, and we just go to her line, give her a hug every day, and she's like my school grandma, we call her.
You are all-stars, and we thank you for all the work that you've done over the last few years to help us.
You're the best. I like the way how you work all together, and I'm proud of you.
Congratulations. So proud of you guys. You guys work really hard and you guys deserve it.
Thank you so much for everything you do. I'm really happy about it, and you guys are amazing.
You mean so much to our building. You mean so much to our kids and our community. We absolutely love having you in our building doing the great things that you do.
And as our team makes their way to the podium, I want to invite Grace Liss, our Director of Food Service, to join me so we can unveil a banner. In recognition of this large team's achievement, we're going to proudly take this banner back to Shawnee Mission North so that everyone can see this team of all-stars that we have.
Yeah. There you go.
We're not great at photo ops.
Yeah. Yay, Bison!
Congratulations to you all, and thank you so much. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Don't be afraid, I'm going to be good. When we were told we had this award, I was in the office the other day, and Dave says, "Did you get that email that I got?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "It kind of horrifies me. You have to speak." So that's just who I'm just out there. My name's Tony Arianis. I'm the cafeteria manager at Shawnee Mission North High School. If you know me, I'm pretty outspoken, maybe to a fault. I initiate a straightforward approach to everything. My filter, well, we care deeply for each other, and we have respect for one another. We look forward to working together every day. We're engaged with each other on a personal level as well. I'm speaking on behalf of the cafeteria staff. Maria Lopez. You can stand and be noted, yes. Maria Lopez, Sandra Card, Terry DeMonte, Betsabe Torres, Antonio Reyes, Susan Williamson, Carmen Gutierrez. Julie Colton couldn't be here. She's in Gardner with her daughter at a wrestling meet, and myself. Okay, hang on, I'm not done yet. We as a team want to express our sincere gratitude for this recognition. For the most part, we came to Shawnee Mission School District as parents of young school-age kids whose schedule we could work around or with. For me, that was 24 years ago. For many of us, it has turned into years. Kids grow up and move on, but our love of the students at North goes on. Feeding the student is our honor, and we take pride in it. Our North community is an important part of our daily lives. We are a part of a big family. We work hard to make mealtime an enjoyable experience for our students every day, to ensure their meals are hot or cold, nutritious, and appealing to the eye. There's great satisfaction coming to work with a clean kitchen, prepping, cooking, serving over 400 breakfasts and 800 lunches, and cleaning up to that kitchen once more for the next day. Every day is a success. There's also a personal fulfillment within the relationships we have with a number of our students. Sometimes that one moment of an interaction, that smile, that "I like your shirt," or "Are you doing okay?" or "Why are you so tired?" Personal touch goes a long way. In closing, I just want to commend this awesome group of individuals, friends, and teammates. As individuals, you are so good. Together, we are one Shawnee Mission great team. Thank you for your never-ending energy and dedication to the students that make our jobs possible. Thank you to our food service director, Grace Liss, our principal, David Ewers, and our supervisor, Heidi Winklemolen, for always supporting us. And thank all of you for recognizing our team. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your service to the kids at Shawnee Mission North. So my last update is a school calendar update. As all of you know, this has been an interesting year with regard to the weather. Over the past month, the questions have been coming in regarding how the 5 snow days that we've used so far will impact the last day of school. Before I tell you where we are right now, I do want to remind you that winter is not over, and there is still a possibility that we could have another weather event that requires us to close school. That said, assuming that we do not have any additional weather-related or any other reasons for closure, this year the last day of school will be Tuesday the 28th for pre-K and early release on Wednesday the 29th for grades K-11. These are the dates that are on the district calendar that was distributed last year and that are on our website. So parents, teachers, students, and all of the rest of you who want the school year to end on time, I would suggest that you wear your pajamas the correct way and that all of your spoons are accounted for and any other traditions that you may have to make the snow come, that we stop those at this time. And that's it. That concludes my superintendent report.
Thank you, Dr. Hubbard. Before we move on to board reports, I just was curious if, given the season of basketball, does anybody know when the last time one district produced both state basketball champions? Last year? How often does that happen?
It doesn't
Not
happen
very
very
often.
often. I went back, I think it was in the early 90s for us.
Okay. Just wanted to call that out. 2 teams. Because my other team didn't win, so got to focus on something else. Okay. Board reports. Let's begin with Mr. Garcia. Do you have any updates for SMAC, PTA, or the Shawnee Mission Education Foundation?
No updates for any of those. I'll be meeting with the foundation here in this next month. Looking forward to more info to come with that group.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Borgman.
Yes. Thank you. From the KASB Board of Directors, a couple things I wanted to share with the board. So first and foremost, if you're interested in sorry, by the way, allergy head right here. I apologize. If you're interested in the Summer Leadership Institute that is sponsored by KASB, it's June 14th and 15th. The Board of Directors is June 15th. It's in Salina, so if you're interested in participating in it, let me know. I will be participating in both the Leadership Institute as well as the Board of Directors meeting, obviously. So again, if you'd like to join me, would love to have you. And then on March the 21st was the KASB Day at the Capitol. It was for an opportunity for board members from across the state to come together and tell the story about public schools before crucial bills that I know that Dr. Little is going to give us a debrief on. And we also have access to KASB Connect, which is basically an online tool for board members, and each month they focus on something different. This month they are focusing on staff recognition. There's lots of templates in there, and so for example, there's a template for board members to send notes of appreciation to staff members. So if any of this is of interest to you, please let me know and I'm happy to share it with you. And then just 3 quick facts that I thought was interesting that KSB put on its website recently. So Kansas graduation rates have increased every year for the last 5 years. Number 2, Kansas public schools provide more than 75,000 full-time jobs across the state. And third, Kansas public schools serve more than 90% of students in the state. So that is my update.
Thank you for that update.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I know Dr. Little is going to be here. Ms. Housley, do you want to?
I'll just defer to Dr.
Okay.
Little.
Okay, for that legislative committee update. And Policy Review Committee, any updates there?
We have 3 first
We have
reads.
3 tonight, yeah.
Okay. Finance and Facilities, the next meeting is in May, so we have a little delay before we start getting that group together for 2024. Real World Learning Team, any updates there? Mr. Westbrook or David? Okay. And then the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. That probably is coming up in the, so I'll probably take that off of the board reports maybe. Yeah, okay. All right, okay. That brings us to 2.3, the board finance report. Dr. Hubbard.
So attached, you'll find the board report ending February of 2024. You'll also find the ESSER 3 year-to-date expenditures.
All right, any questions? We'll just be spending down our ESSER 3 for this year, correct? And
yes.
All right, okay. All right, we have a number of discussion items. The first one is our legislative update. And welcome Dr. Stuart Little.
Good evening, Stuart Little, Little Government Relations in Topeka. I'm happy to be here tonight. I'll give you a bit of a look at where we are and kind of what's going on. The legislature is going to adjourn the end of the regular session next Friday. So between now and next Friday, they will be working on bills on the House and Senate floor, which they began doing today. They will, when they complete that work, probably the middle of the week, end of the week, they will begin meeting in conference committee. So for education purposes, they're going to be moving bills around. And then they will meet in a conference committee where the leadership of the House and the Senate education groups will negotiate differences between bills. Next week, from the middle to the end of next week, they will be trying to run those things across the floor of the House and Senate to get them done before they adjourn. That is exceedingly ambitious for them to be able to get all that done in this amount of time. After they leave on the 5th, they're coming back on the 29th of April for the wrap-up session. They anticipated it being not very long, but as you may have noticed as you've watched reports and those kinds of things, they didn't do a lot of work early on. And so we've kind of piled everything here at the back end, and everything is now kind of backed up. So that's where we are in terms of time frame, timeline. Everything could be done by next Friday, or they could have moved some of the big things off all the way to the end of April into May, and who knows how long that would go. I will talk about a couple of the big issues that are out there as we are at the end of the legislative session. They are, first and foremost, is the big school finance policy bill. It's House substitute for Senate Bill 387. It will be debated tomorrow morning. It is the second bill up in the House of Representatives, so they will begin talking about this bill. In general, it is assumed that they have the votes to pass it out and move it on, but part of the issue that we've had for school finance for a number of years is that the bill that gets passed has been vetoed by the governor and they can't override it, or they've figured out they don't have the votes to pass what they want, and then they'll come back and we'll renegotiate. Hence, we may go longer than we anticipate. So the bill includes a variety of things. I've sent a written report that talks about some of the key components. There are a lot of things in here, and I can talk through any of the specifics in detail. The two things I want to highlight are the changes to special education and to at-risk, which are two of the key points. So for special education, they're going to add more money into the special education spending. They're not going to get to the 92%, but and budget that out for the future. But they will make those funds available, and then what they're going to do is change the law since the early 2000s or late 2000s, that the state funding that comes to the state and then is used as part of the local option budget has been revenue that the district has had, and you've been able to use that and spend where you choose to see fit. This bill takes that money and now says the only place you can spend it is on special education, so that limits, constricts, that's probably, I think, statewide somewhere between $160, $200 million from school districts. And then the legislature is also going to claim that as part of their 92% to fund the statutory requirements for special education. So it has the likelihood of potentially increasing property taxes here if you all are going to have to spend some of those money in another place and can't control it, or you're going to have to make reductions and those kinds of things. That will be probably the most significant change that will be coming in the special ed side of things. The at-risk program, there's been a lot of discussion in the last couple of years, as you've seen, about at-risk. The legislature repeatedly over a few years has put more constraints about where and how we spend at-risk funds, probably not as anybody envisioned at the beginning when these were put into place, but that's where we are now. So there's attempt, and I'm going to try to explain this. The explanation for the bill is interesting. You should read that. Basically, they're going to put into place a process that will require all school districts to create and identify cohort groups and then pick very specific at-risk interventions and then make those students use those interventions for 4 years, and then so they can be longitudinally tested. I believe one of them's third grade, one of them's 8th grade, something like that. And you have to go through that. And then there has to be a longitudinal study, and you have to be moving kids up into the level 3 and 4 proficiency, which is, those are the ones that this bill says are the only ones that are proficient, which is, I think, contrary to the basic understanding of the State Board of Education and other folks. And if one does not move your at-risk students, I believe it's by 2030, up into that 75% or more, you will, after a couple of warnings, your at-risk and high-density at-risk funding will be cut. So the one thing, the last time I was here, I talked about you would also lose your accreditation if that happened. They did remove that component, so it's down to that. I know that's a long, complex thing. I'm happy to talk more, and there's a written explanation in my report. But the basic idea is they have tried to constrict at-risk funding and say the only places those can be spent are on an at-risk child. Of course, we all know the generator of at-risk funds is not the same thing as an at-risk child, and most at-risk students who are receiving at-risk services are oftentimes in a regular classroom, and they don't like that, and they think that that's not the right way to do things. So that bill will be up tomorrow. There are other things in it as well. I think they put 12 bills into one. There will be lots of discussion tomorrow on how this goes. There is a school voucher bill this year that is on the Senate floor. I don't know if it's up tomorrow. The bills that they're doing tomorrow are not up yet. It essentially provides a 75% of the base per pupil for if your student attends an accredited non-public school, you will receive an advanced refundable tax credit for about $3,500. And if you're homeschooling or in a non-accredited school, you will receive 50% of the base aid. To be able to receive that, you will send your request to get the tax credit with the social security number of each of your children, and you will be provided the credit. You don't have to go back and show anything you did, but that's passed out of Senate Tax Committee. It's sitting on the floor of the House or the Senate, and it is one of the bills that they can debate this week. I talked a bit before about a big, late in the session, a plan to kind of create a bigger process to deal with literacy. And there's a proposal that came together between the State Board of Education, the Board of Regents. Okay, the Board of Regents kind of made the State Department of Education become engaged in this, but it's going to create a process for educating, certifying, training folks in literacy programs. That bill is both on the House and the Senate floor. The Senate passed it over today when they were supposed to work it, meaning that usually means that a bill's got issues if you're going to pass it over, so I don't know if we'll come back to that. One of the bills that I've been talking about is a bill that has to do with the local school board's authority to control your meetings and to administer the functions of your job. That bill passed out of the Senate today. It requires essentially in some school districts this doesn't happen, and in just a couple of school districts, in fact only one, people came and testified in favor of this bill, and yet it's now on the Senate floor. But have to publish the email addresses and names of the members of the state board, of your local Board of Education. It also will allow anyone on the board to place an item on the agenda. It will require public comment and will allow engagement with individuals during public comment. And it originally would allow any board member access to any school district at any time, building, facility at any time. And it was amended on the floor today to limit that to during school hours or during community-based events. So that bill, when I say these bills passed today, they've been moved to final action. They'll be voted on tomorrow. If they get to that point, they're going to be passed out. A couple of other things I would note. The Senate also passed a bill that added, if you are in the foster care system, you are automatically eligible for at-risk services, and so you'll be into that pool. They also changed the Senate passed the bill that changed the at-risk or the enrollment count. Currently, you can go back to 2 years. So if you're in a declining school district, you'd be able to pick the higher of the last 2 years. This will now say you can use the current year enrollment or the previous year enrollment four-year count. They amended it on the floor for one more year to add smaller declining districts, an extra year to look back. I know that's a lot of stuff. There are other bills out there going on, but those are kind of the big ones that we have in front of us now. It'll be curious to see the debate on the House floor tomorrow. There's lots of conversation and meetings going on about the big bill and how that might be received. But I'll pause there and see if anyone has questions.
I'm answered, right? Yeah. Yes, Mr. Westbrook.
As always, I appreciate your work and your reports, and it's a lot to absorb. The special education issue is one that perplexes me. It would appear the takeaway is that special education is going to get held hostage. And if taxes go up, it will be special education that would be to blame for it. Is that an impression the rest of you have from what you've shared? I'm not talking about what you've expressed, but what the legislature is talking about. Is that a fair impression, or do I misunderstand?
It seems to me that they're trying to take credit for local option dollars.
Yeah.
And so they're renaming dollars that we're already paying for our local option as part of it's part of the larger finance formula. It was done a few years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Little, maybe it's longer than a few years, but they did it with retirement spending as well. Like there was benefit spending that came from the district that then had to be funneled through the state, but it wasn't state dollars, but it ran through the state so they could claim that as state funding. And it sounds like this is a similar, it's local option dollars, but they're going to say that that's meeting the state's obligation with regards to SPED.
Yes, and your council member Westbrook, the challenge has been for probably 6 to 8 years of the discussion about fully funding special education and the state not doing that. And we have spent those years navigating avenues to see what the issue is. As you will have watched this process, have been conversations about the formula is not right. We're over-identifying. We need to just dig into the formula and redo the formula and those kinds of things. And that's been the conversation. I don't know necessarily that it's so much they want to increase taxes. It's that the process of special education is very complex, and I'm not sure that there is a depth of capacity to having only this group having that conversation. There's a value in having some expertise in the room to talk about that, and that hasn't really taken place. So it's complex, it's difficult, and we need to try to get to 92%. So this is a way we can do it. The impact of that may be maybe an increase on local property taxes. The question of the hour at this point is, does that identifying, I won't call it taking, but that identifying local funding as special education funding, does that satisfy our maintenance of effort with the federal government? And that how that question is answered by the appropriate powers that be may have some impact on what happens with this bill tomorrow as well.
Well, that's very, very helpful answer. It strikes me a terribly complicated issue, and the opportunity to make it simple and then attach blame is just to what Ms. Osley just said is pretty outrageous. But it is a battle we'll continue to deal with, and I really appreciate the clarity that you bring to the information you share with us, and we have to be ever vigilant about this.
Yes.
Can you refresh my recollection on what the overage balance is right now for the state funding? Like we have a remainder?
It's somewhere between 3 and 4 billion.
3 and 4 billion. And can you refresh for me what it would cost to fully fund special education?
I believe and Russ, you may know this better. I think the State Board of Education's 4-year phase, what is it, 55 million a year or something like that, I think.
Thank you.
Ms. Howard, did you have a question? Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question about the at-risk bill? Was there a Senate version of that in which level 2, 3, and 4 were deemed the target for growth for the at-risk cohort students? And, or has it?
I think, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think there was some conversation about, particularly in response to how the state board, who's done a really good job this year of coming in and speaking for the department, they talked about that group of, like the top half of level 2 and the bottom half of level 2. And so factoring in some of that as the, not just 3 and 4, but kind of that, the upper half of the level 2, if that, back into that kind of at-risk area. Does that make sense?
But that's not where the language of the bill stands right now?
No, that was just, I think that was, I'm not sure that came, that's the House, the Senate Ed Committee talked about that. I'm not sure they put it into anything.
Okay. And then I don't, so, and the other part is that you have to lock in the same intervention for 4 years, or they just have to be receiving some kind of evidence-based support?
The intervention has to be the same so that you can have the longitudinal data. I think what is missing from that is somebody believes that you're going to have every one of those children in the same place for 4 years with a population of students at risk. That is probably an unfulfillable assumption in this as well.
It's just not sound practice, right? So, okay.
I do have a question, Dr. Little, after all, and it's sort of a, I feel like we have you come every year and we all are up here and we roll our eyes and we are like really upset about what's happening in Topeka. I ask this in all honesty. Does anyone care? Like how do we make an impact on this? I feel like we have these same conversations over and over again, and consistently the legislators from the Shawnee Mission School District are really aligned with our district, I think, and they're going to bat for us in Topeka. But we still seem to have the same kind of policy coming out from the state. So what should we be doing as board members to result in different outcomes for our students?
There's probably different times and places I can answer that question differently, but here and now, you are correct. In general, the Shawnee Mission legislative delegation is supportive of a lot of the work that you all do. There are conversations that have to be had with folks in the delegation, though, to make sure that they're aware of where the district stands, and which is what we're trying to do. And you know, everybody's up for election this fall, so we'll see how that works out. But it is at this moment in time, we have the luxury of having and generally a delegation that's very supportive, and in general most of the county. The real challenges that thinking about these issues from a statewide level are small rural districts that have legislators that have 15, 20 school districts that they have to respond to. And there's an interesting mix between the philosophy that gets you there and the reality of the expectations that your school districts will have. And that's kind of a pinch point that we have right now. And there was a time when that was us. That's not necessarily the case anymore. But there are still folks that we work on and talk to and communicate with to make sure that they understand what we're doing. And I would note one of the parts of Senate Bill 387 creates the school finance task force that will write the new school finance formula. And so they would get started on that, which ends the end of June in 2027. So.
I would add to that KASB has the Kansas Action Network, so all school board members can be a part of the KAN, K-A-N. So I've been part of that for a couple of years, and you can just send an email through.
Just noting, I think it's tricky when I feel like Shawnee Mission is along for the ride with what's happening in some communities outside of Shawnee Mission sometimes. We don't have, I don't know. I feel like so many of these conversations are playing out in rural communities, and our lawmakers are pretty aligned with where we are, and it makes it a lot, I mean, some lawmaker in Hayes does not care what I personally think. about anything. So just the reality of the situation is really frustrating sometimes.
And school finance is one thing. On a lot of other policy issues and those kind of things, it's kind of wide open where a lot of things are. But you're right, in terms of school finance, absolutely.
All right. I'd love to ask again the prediction of which one of these little components you think is going to stick, all of them, which are testing points, but I know that's not really in your purview to make predictions, but there's a lot of poison pills this year. So
yes.
Frustrating. All right. Anything else? Thank you for your good work in trying to bring the voice of reason and our legislative platform to Topeka.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right. Okay, that brings us to 3.2, visual and performing arts. Dr. Hubbard.
Yes, I'm going to ask Dr. Bill Thomas and Megan Ellis to join us. They're going to give us a presentation regarding performing and visual arts.
Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. It's been a long time since I've seen some of you since the COVID days and banging on windows and all of that, but I'm glad to be back with you. And those of you I don't know.
You were there for an interesting meeting.
Yeah, we were here. We were here,
Yeah,
exactly. But, we had a lot of discussions at that point about where music was and how to survive all the COVID pieces, and we've done that very well, and so we're going to share some thoughts and ideas with you tonight about where we are. And with that, yeah, absolutely. You already know who we are. So let's start off with, obviously, our strategic plan. We're all a part of that together. Academic success, their challenging, relevant, personalized learning plan. And the next one I like especially, every student develop and utilize personal resilience. How many of you, when you were in school, were involved in band, choir, orchestra, strings, and or visual arts? How many of you involved in performing or visual arts? Did you ever hear your teacher or director say, let's do that one more time? Right? Resilience. Let's do it again. Or in the art world, what if we just make this little tweak? Let's refine this. Absolutely right. And then every student will develop interpersonal skills to be engaged, empathetic members, and part of our global community. I look at the artwork around this room, and Meg and I were talking about that earlier. Some of this just came back from Topeka. We have groups that travel all around the state to perform, students, and even all around the world to perform. So we are certainly involved in our global community and helping kids understand what that's like.
So before we get into our more individual department-specific updates, we just wanted to give you kind of a generalized update on what the fine arts look like in Shawnee Mission in general. So in Shawnee Mission, we are comprised of 80 full-time and 12 part-time visual arts, performance arts teachers, and that's K-12, and 61 full-time and 1 part-time visual arts teachers, K-12, and our staff is growing next year. We share 1 secretary part-time with us and part-time with CTE, and then we have 2 half-time fine arts coordinators. On a weekly basis, kindergarten through 6th grade students attend 1 50-minute art class and 1 50-minute music class, and if you're familiar with the ABCD schedule, some weeks they get one of those twice. Upper elementary students also have the opportunities to be part of strings, band, and choir across all of our elementary buildings. In the middle school, we have 16 fine arts course opportunities, and on the high school, we have 32 fine arts course opportunities. And there's no way to really give you a true quantity of all of the countless additional arts activities and events that our teachers provide our students on all the various platforms. But in our updates, we're going to do our best job to maybe give you some of those highlights at least.
So these are all pictures of students in various activities from orchestra, band, theater, whatever it might be, all over our district. Performing, being involved, engaged with each other and within our local and across the state. The bottom picture, in the green, actually is a group of students, young students from one of our elementary schools that got the opportunity to perform at the state music convention, and it was a huge hit. It was just simply amazing. But one of the things, there's the national board certification that a lot of teachers can go for. And I don't know how many we have across our district, but I can say we don't have any in our performing arts, but we have one that's working on it. But we have something that I think is every bit as good in the fact that we have many, many of our staff members involved, and you can look at the picture there, professionally. We have members of our staff that are involved with the Kansas City Symphony. They're a part of the Kansas City Jazz Orchestra. They teach with the Lyric Opera, the Sing with the Opera, they teach with Youth Symphony. They're in all these different organizations and as performers, and they can bring that real-world experience into our students across the district, which I think is just amazing. The gentleman you see down in the bottom left, we're going to hate to say goodbye, but he's retiring this year, Mr. Doug Talley, and he is going to be performing this summer in Europe with the Kansas City Symphony. Those are the people that teach our students. I had a conversation at the State Music Convention last week, or last month, a couple of weeks ago, in recruiting some teachers, and one young man was so excited to have the opportunity to apply in Shawnee Mission because he wants to be part of the Lyric Opera, and he's involved himself with the youth chorus out of Lawrence, the children's chorus there, and he wanted to use that talent and expertise in opera, but yet still be a teacher because he loves kids. And I said, dude, we got you. We can do this. Let's do this together. And so that's the kind of the opportunities that our staff has that they bring to bear on our students. When we first met each other a few years ago, it was during the pandemic that I alluded to a while ago, and we all went through a struggle just trying to keep kids engaged in every classroom. But performing arts, we had a struggle because of the aerosols, and so band and choir was at especially difficult time. And you can see our numbers prior to the COVID shutdown, all across the top there, band, choir, orchestra, theater, fairly strong. And then the pandemic hit, and we took a hit, just like all of Kansas did, all the country did. And as you look on down towards the bottom, we are recovering. We are coming back. We're not as strong as we were yet, but those numbers are trending in the right direction. And I would say, having conversations with my Acacia colleagues, we have been ahead of the curve for a lot of our state. There have actually been some schools that lost orchestra completely in their school districts. And so we've been able to sustain that and keep going. The theater numbers, a little bit of a misnomer because we have theater courses, but oftentimes our theater programs are open to every student in the building, and that's incredibly difficult to track. So some of those numbers, we're just really starting to get a handle on how to maybe track some of that, but I went ahead and put it in there just so we have some kind of a benchmark and an idea of where we are. But there's our performing arts enrollments, and that's in good shape. Just some random highlights, I guess. Shawnee Mission now has 2 National Honor Societies for music. One is at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and one is at West, and that's the Tri-M Music Honor Society. It honors students of high GPA, high performing caliber. They, just like NHS, they go out and they do community work. Sometimes it's taking performing ensembles into the community to go play at a nursing home or go assist with other events, musical events in the community. So that's awesome that we have that can go into the middle levels, and we're looking at that and talking with teachers to see how we can move that on through the rest of our district. Here in a couple of years since I've been brought on board, hopefully next year we'll have all of our performing arts courses all mapped, and we'll have curriculum in place, official curriculum in place for all of that. A year ago, we came and we began a music technology curriculum in Shawnee Mission. We were the first district in the state of Kansas to map using the national curriculum, and we are still the first district and only district to have that nationally based curriculum in place in our schools. There are other districts that are doing some form of music technology training, but nothing that's aligned to a national curriculum. So we are still first in that and leading in that. Have been asked actually by KSDE if I would lead a group to maybe map that for our entire state. So we're looking at that as a possibility. And our students, as we talked before, are actively involved as performers, not only in our schools and in our community, but regionally and across the globe. South takes a trip every year or two, of course, to Germany with their sister city. Shawnee Mission East has taken their bands to Italy, taking them to London. Of course, my band has gone to London several times over the years. I think we have an orchestra that's going to Italy later this year, so we are actively performing. And we had groups in New York just a couple of weeks ago for spring break. So we've got folks all over the country and all over the world representing our school district, and those students getting not only a trip of a lifetime, but an experience of performing internationally, and the crowds are different. When you go internationally, they have a different appreciation for the art that we bring to them. I know marching the streets of London, they're just so enamored with marching bands because they don't have that in the UK. They have brass bands and they have orchestras, but a marching band with flags and color guards and you're like rock stars. They show up, they have the cameras out, and can we take a picture? Can we take all the time? And so our kids get an experience that they can't get in any other classroom.
And then, of course, we also have the visual arts. I'm going to start with our visual arts numbers, our enrollment numbers, just for uniformity. Though we didn't see as dramatic of an impact from COVID, you know, our numbers don't always paint a whole picture of our department, but I do think that they show you the total number of students that we're impacting. So my numbers are broken down into high school, middle school, and then obviously 7th through 12th elementary school. Like we've mentioned, every student is receiving both arts. And then they're also divided by both individual students, so that's each student who's enrolled in a single or more than one art course, but also total course enrollment. And so the difference between those two numbers kind of highlights how many students are taking multiple visual arts courses, which I think is pretty powerful. You can see that high school in general has had modest growth over the last 5 years. Middle school numbers go up and down quite a bit more. They're a little funky, and I have a few different hypotheses around that, but one of the big ones I know is that counting course numbers for middle school is a little bit actually more confusing or murky. On the high school level, courses fit into these different departments very easily. For example, we have graphic design, and we have a visual arts graphic design course, and then we have a business department graphic design course. On the middle school level, we just have one graphic art type of course called digital media. It's mapped with both visual arts standards and CTE standards. At some middle schools, it's taught by an art teacher. At some middle schools, it's taught by a business teacher. At some middle schools, that can vary year to year. But that was a course that went into effect, I believe, right before 2019, 2020. So typically, the following few years, you would see that course growing pretty dramatically. That course, those numbers aren't counted in our middle school totals because it just exists on the business program planning guide page, even though it's, I believe, more often taught by an art teacher than not. But I just wanted to give some explanation to some of that inconsistency. That might not paint the whole picture, but at least tells us part of that. So like I said, our numbers are not the whole story. We have a lot of curricular and course updates, some of which you're already familiar with. You review our program planning guide and approve it. You review our curricular resources and approve those purchases. But a few highlights I want to point out, as far as visual arts, almost all of our coursework is mapped, all elementary, all middle school, except for a new course that we're bringing on next year. All of our intro and intermediate high school arts courses, and then we're really just working on some of our advanced courses that we've tweaked the last few years anyway. So the majority of our art content is actually in some stage of a revision cycle, which is really exciting. Next year, we're bringing on a few new courses. So the first one is the Art of Animation, which is a new middle school course. If there was any worry about our middle school art numbers, I think it's safe to say that the Art of Animation course enrollment that I've seen so far is very much addressing that. It's actually resulted in us adding 2 new middle school art teacher positions next year, one at Indian Hills and one at Trail Ridge, which is really exciting. And then on the high school level, we've reformatted what was once a semester art portfolio course to be a year-long professional arts practices course, so more real-world learning experiences, more opportunities to work with mentors or do special client projects. And then we also have a pilot course at Shawnee Mission East called The Science of Art. It's an art course through a scientific lens, so a lot of chemistry, a lot of physics, which is going to be really exciting to follow along. The other big highlight that I know my high school department is pretty proud of is that this year we have standardized district-wide our safety procedures and our required testing for our really equipment-heavy jewelry sculpture course. This was much needed, and our teachers did some really outstanding work to guarantee that all of our students are safe, which is what matters more than anything, right? Like we said at the beginning, beyond the classroom, we provide our students so many different opportunities to display their talents. Bill just spoke about many different performance opportunities, and our art teachers really go above and beyond in providing our visual arts students those opportunities too. I'm not going to read you every single bullet here, but you can see that there is a variety of different building shows and events. We have multi-building or K-12 vertical shows and events happening in our district. We have some outstanding district-wide events. We just announced this evening in the superintendent report that our third quarter virtual art show is just released. This show has been
a wonderful addition to the things we do. We typically show about 250 student works in this show, and so every year our community is being exposed to over 1,000 student works virtually. Like, what a great way to show all the things our students are doing in such an easy platform. And then our art teachers really go above and beyond in providing so many additional community art opportunities. These are all extra that our students have the opportunity to participate in. Youth Art Month is this month, Happy Youth Art Month, as we've mentioned. And so we just had over 20 works of art in Topeka representing Shawnee Mission, 2 of which tonight actually placed on a state level. So, and I highly suspect that this is actually a partial list because not every art teacher replies to my emails, understandably so. But our art teachers really do this because they know how powerful this is for kids. This is one of many quotes that you would hear from art teachers when discussing art shows. This is one of our current elementary teachers who said that she is a student that struggles in their general classroom. However, I see her light up when learning and creating in the art room. She was ecstatic when she saw one of her artworks on display. She had her mom with her, and she kept saying, "That's my artwork, look at my artwork." Then she explained what the picture was about and how she made it. Moments like these are so meaningful for students. That's why our art teachers really constantly are going above and beyond to guarantee that students get to participate in these situations. And in addition, I also want to take the opportunity to brag about our staff. We have so many talented art teachers serving in our department. I asked them to share with me any professional art experiences they participated in. This is just current teachers and recent, within the last year or coming up. Accomplishments and recognitions they've received, shows that they're have art in, or local galleries that they're either curating for or a resident at or participating in. And again, partial list because my emails are long and frequent and not everyone gets to them all the time. So again, I can't read you these dozens of bullets, but you can see some highlights. We've had an elementary art teacher participate in 2 Parade of Hearts. We have a high school art teacher who co-founded and publishes an international arts magazine. We have art teachers showing at probably every gallery here and many nationally. And we highlight this because these art teachers are already so accomplished professionally, and they continue to choose the classroom and they choose their students every day. Many of my art teachers have said similar quotes to this current elementary art teacher who's also an active, successful professional artist. I've never felt more creative than when I'm around kids. And I think that choice to continue to come to the classroom and share these talents is so powerful. If you take nothing else away tonight, I hope that's what you take away.
So I think about the visual arts, performing arts, the fine arts in general as kind of the front doorstep, the front yard of Shawnee Mission. We are out there representing our schools and our district to the community at large, as you've seen from several of these things. And we have struggles like everybody else. Things are great, but there's always a struggle. There's always stuff we have to work on. And of course, skyrocketing costs, we're all dealing with that. Inflation hits everybody. We're not exempt. Equipment costs going up. It is what it is. Consumable prices, all of those things. Staffing constraints and hiring difficulties. There's a teacher shortage. I bet you've heard that before. But going out and finding folks, I want to say thank you to the board and upper administration for your work in creating a wonderful salary schedule that, again, when I was talking with potential teacher candidates at KMEA a couple of weeks ago, I was able to point that out and say, you can look anywhere else you want to in the state, but make sure and check out the salaries that we offer because they're incredibly competitive thanks to our board. So using that, so thank you for your work with that. It helps as we're out recruiting. Mike, you can pay me later for that. District and community changes. As our district's changing constantly, as every school district and community is, we're constantly talking with our students and our staff. How do we engage? How do we make students feel like what they're doing is relevant to their life and it's going to help them in the long run? It's important that we meet them where they are and take them and expose them to things they never thought possible, and how does that fit into who you are and who you're going to become down the road. And then, of course, the unique duties and availability of performing arts coordinators, the 2 of us that are part-time. We're in the classroom every day and we're in this building every day. And we live in the gray area. And it's sometimes hard to meet the needs of both the students and the staff, but we're busting our tails, trying our best so that we can help them do what they do with excellence and continue on the great things that are going on in Shawnee Mission. So thank you for what you've done to support us and help us support our staffs. What questions do you have? How can we help you better understand what's going on in our world?
Thank you for coming back and sharing kind of an update. It's your passion and commitment really comes through. And I have to say, you know, we've been enjoying the visual arts when the screens went up, but having the physical art in the boardroom now really is a game changer, I think, just for the reminding us why we're here. So that's really fun to have the art here as well. I'm going to look up and down and see if anyone has questions. I'm going to start with Mr. Garcia, and then we'll go with Ms. Borgman.
Thank you for this. This was great. Love seeing this. I was a kiddo in Shawnee Mission that loved art, but I had the parents to encourage me to pursue those classes at middle school and high school level. Can you talk about how we encourage students that maybe don't have the balance of having folks at home encouraging them to pursue that when they get to the middle school, high school level? How do we have our folks from the middle school that come to the elementary school, sixth graders, to enroll them as I know they naturally do? How do we continue the conversation? Maybe an art teacher is in some of those meetings, or what does it look like? Can you explain a little bit more how we encourage those students to pursue?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we probably each have a little bit of a different perspective on that. So I can say that our secondary teachers are very passionate about growing their programs. They see the value in growing their programs, in growing the number of students in their programs, number of staff in their programs, and they go above and beyond to try to connect with those students. But it can vary sometimes feeder by feeder depending on the relationships you have vertically. I mean, all of these things are extra. It's things that our teachers are intentionally seeking out. I know that when I was in the North Feeder as a full-time teacher at Neiman, I worked with the middle school teachers who would WebEx in during my sixth grade class before enrollment. That's also a feeder that does a K-12 vertical show, which I think really helps connect your elementary school kids with your middle school kids with your high school kids and those teachers. But again, these are all things that they are doing outside of contract, above and beyond, and so as we know, all of our teachers are always spread so thin, and so sometimes those opportunities aren't as consistent as I wish they could be. Right? Thoughts?
Yep. Otherwise, I mean, in the performing arts areas, oftentimes we'll take bands or orchestras, choirs around to the buildings for different events. So we're going to, I think, Pawnee here in a few weeks for Panther Prowl. And so we're going to take some upperclassmen, some high school kids down into the elementary and show them. And we talk about, when I go with my kids, I talk about this could be you one day. Mm-hmm. Create the vision so that they can see themselves maybe down the road. So I think that's important in any of our activities, that you can do this. Mm-hmm. Can you see yourself here, and help them draw that picture for them? So we try to get out as much as we can. You know, can't take kids out of school too often to go do the other things, but we try to make those connections when possible, for sure.
Can I ask a follow-up just real quick? I love what you just said, setting up the vision. This can be you one day in our feeder patterns. I think that's great. But we know that a challenge, especially with music, maybe I'll just use music as an example. Kiddos, let's say in the North feeder pattern and other feeder patterns, have trouble accessing those instruments. How do we as a district, or what community partners are existing that allow those students who can't afford to, say, purchase a tuba in the third or fourth grade when they're just starting to get interested? How can we alleviate some of those issues or address them directly? Are there things we're doing? I'm sure there are.
Yep.
Would love to hear.
Fortunately, we don't ever ask a student to ever buy a tuba, because starting price is about $8,000 on those. But, but getting a flute or a clarinet or a trumpet or trombone, we have several instruments across the district, some that we have purchased over the years, some that have been gifted to us, again, over the years from students that have graduated on out. 2-3 years ago, I started a program called SMILE, and it stood for, providing instruments from the community, reaching out to community members and partners, cleaning out their closets, providing instruments, putting them in our hands. We have a local music store that will fix them up free of charge and give them back to us so we can give to students to use. SMEF has provided books and reeds and oil as needed for students. So we have a wealthy supply, a strong supply, probably 200 or 300 instruments for anybody that ever asks us. and comes to us with that. And so we don't just give instruments out willy-nilly. We do go to the principals and have a candid conversation. Hey, Johnny here came to us. What can you tell us? We don't make them go through a big, long process. We don't make them jump through hoops. But we do go to the principal, because sometimes the parents may have some money, but they've got 5 kids in school. Then all of a sudden they don't have much money. So it's not about that. But if the principal says, yeah, I think they could use some help right now, we're going to pick them up every time. If they come to us, we will find a way. We will not turn them away. And then when they get to middle school, then we've got other instruments there, those tubas, bassoons, oboes, whatever, that we can put in their hands if they need to, they're growing and their mouth changes, they need a bigger thing than a trumpet. We're going to take care of them. We're not going to let them flounder off in no man's land. We want them with us. Yeah.
Dr. Thomas and Miss Ellis, thank you so much. Dr. Thomas, it's nice to see your whole face this time around. And Miss Ellis, I know we've exchanged emails about art shows in the past, so thank you for spending part of your evening with us for this update. Really just a thank you for all you do. The arts is so critical for all children and for all children to be exposed to it, especially when they may not be exposed to it at home. So thank you so much for all that you do. I have a whole gallery wall in my house of my kids' art, and so I just want you to know that it's, I do beg my kids to take art classes. I do have one in an art class this year. I'm so excited, but anyway, I just want you to know that even beyond elementary school, when our kids bring stuff home, it still goes on the fridge. It still goes in a frame, well, depending on how much effort goes into the piece. But anyway, I just really want to thank you for all you do for all students. So you guys are amazing.
Thank you.
And stocking stuffers on mugs, and all sorts of things. It's good, yeah.
I just have a quick question, and I'm sure I should have asked this last week so that you would have had an opportunity to prepare the data, but is anyone tracking the music scholarships and the art scholarships that some of our students get when they go, do we track anything to that effect, or do we keep a record of it? Because I know several kids who got either music or art scholarships in addition to general education, and they're not going for a music degree or an art degree, but they are receiving a couple $1,000s a year towards their tuition and participating at the college level. And so I think it would be really neat to track that data. I'm guessing we don't, but it's what? Post-school follow-up. A post-school follow-up for our students who are engaged. I know it's hard to get that data, but it just is I'm sure we've got a lot of them. So good work. Thanks.
I will say that we've worked with SMEF to identify fine arts students specifically for the scholarship Shawnee Mission every year, and they work with art-specific schools as well. So there's definitely an intentional effort there, though we don't necessarily have numbers around all of our student population.
Yep, Ms. Embry?
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for the work you do to keep the art in our boardroom. It is one of my favorite
I try to keep
things.
up on it, but it's time consuming, so
I absolutely
my
love
best.
coming in and seeing actual student art on our walls. It's a really good grounder for me, at least, when we come in this room. So thank you for making that a priority. This is just totally out of mom interest. So I have elementary kids, and they go to Trailwood, where we have a new makerspace. And I'm wondering if our art teachers or visual arts teachers, if they ever use makerspaces, or as you see these facilities get upgraded throughout the district, what will you do for arts in terms of new facilities?
That's a great question. I teach half-time at Lenexa Hills, and we have a makerspace there as well. However, the art room is a full makerspace, and so typically, I know on the elementary level, our art teachers are wonderful at collaborating with their classroom teacher counterparts, working together around cross-curricular projects and stuff like that, or sharing materials as needed when able to. And so I know at Lenexa Hills, they do some really cool science, creative projects there, and will come to me for, cardboard or advice on types of tape and stuff like that. Our art teachers are enthusiastic around any opportunities to continue creating beyond the sometimes 50 minutes a week those elementary students are getting, or on the secondary level as well. I don't know that necessarily ties directly into makerspace. I do know that when our art teachers are included on the conversations around new buildings and space and stuff like that. I was just at Pawnee the other day helping one of our new art teachers fire her kiln for the first time, and she was ecstatic at the amount of space that she had there, and so that was a relief to see that her room got bigger, Just being involved in those kind of conversations is always powerful because we do have those weird perspectives that you might not consider for those kind of spaces. Do you have anything to?
I was thrilled we had a kiln. I didn't know until I went for like art night.
Oh,
and
yes.
Got to sneak
Every
behind
building
and we had
has
a whole
one.
Kiln. That's amazing.
And you said Trailwood? Shelley Schwab is an outstanding art teacher, by the way. She is.
Glow art show tomorrow
wonderful.
night. My son has been staying after at recess because he's perfecting. It's going to be
Outstanding.
perfect glow art.
I love it.
Mr. Westbrook, did you have a question?
I just want to underscore what everybody else has said. I think that the way we get to art is just the creative expressiveness that it enables for our kids. And then they quickly learn that things like perspective. I mean, I can remember the eyes of the Mona Lisa and how they seem to follow you around the room. How is that possible? What's that? There's math to that, and in the literary arts, there's all sorts of math when it comes to poetry, when it comes to relationships and music. And all of that stuff requires an understanding of the basics, but sometimes kids who hate the basics get there through the arts. And we can't forget that. This is not the superficial piece. This is not the nice to have. This is the must have part of, I think, public education. And it's really, really important to hear your enthusiasm. And I hope you can tell our animation about this. I think this board is pretty committed to what you're doing. And you should be proud of what your kids are learning and what you're accomplishing with them. And I thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that might do it. I'm looking forward to the Science of Art pilot at East.
I am too. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And
Appreciate it.
Before we finish up, I see the resolution is coming before you later. Thank you again for that. We did this several years ago, and it meant a lot to the staff. And again, I tell them all the time how supportive the board has been over the years for fine arts, but making that statement, signing on that dotted line, ladies and gentlemen, it's powerful. It's powerful to the staff. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Megan and Bill. All right. Next is a presentation on the secondary math resource adoption. Dr. Hubbard?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it to Dr. Dennis, who I think has several friends here to share as well.
I do have several friends here. I'd like to bring Holly McCarty and her team up. They have been working hard at updating our math resources for the secondary level, so I'll turn it over to Holly.
I am Holly McCarty, and I am the coordinator of curriculum instruction for secondary math and science. And I'm going to let my team, there's hiding back here. This is just a small representative team of teachers when we had about 42 involved in our pilot for this resource. But I'd like them to introduce themselves so you know what school that they are from and the grade level that they teach.
Christina Lang, Trail Ridge Middle School, 7th grade math.
Hi, I'm Marcy Murphy. I teach 8th grade math at Hawker Grove.
Hello, I'm Monica Fleming, and I teach 6th grade at Belander Elementary.
I'm Amy Reed, and I teach at Shawnee Mission South Algebra 2 and Integrated 2.
Connie Espinoza-Springfield, Associate Principal at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School, and I'm a former math teacher.
So as we go through this evening to give you a little bit of update on our 612 math curriculum work that we have been doing, as always, our strategic plan is the first thing that we think of. And it was very interesting, even as Bill spoke about the resilience piece, because that is something that we are looking for in our math program, for kids to be able to have productive struggle with mathematics and have resilience to keep going, because math is so important for them in their world. We also look for that personalized learning plan, and you will see how we have found that and something that we can use at our middle school level that's going to help with that personalization for our kids as we fill in different gaps that may need to be completed as we continue through their career in math. And finally, that interpersonal skills. We need kids that are engaged in mathematics, which can look different sometimes from when we were in the math classroom, sitting in rows, listening to the teacher teach. And we have looked at a lot of different resources and a lot of the research that's out there, and we need kids to be able to solve problems, any problem. And so we need them to be basically a community of learners so that they can go out and do that in the world. So with that, we looked at a variety of resources, and we're going to give you a little scope of what we did, but we are recommending that for middle school, and our middle school is actually including 6-8. The Kansas math standards are banded K-5, 6-8, and 9-12. So even though our 6th grade is in the elementary, we felt it was important to include them in that band, and that's why we did have 6th grade doing our pilot, and iReady goes for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. For our high school, we are recommending CPM, which stands for College Preparatory Mathematics. It is a nonprofit that's been around for a long time, but it's a little bit different than they publish their own work. So to give you a little bit more about that, when we started this journey, we really wanted to talk about, how does this resource support the desired teacher and student behaviors that we're looking for? And there's the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics that has lots of research over the years, and the same things prevail year after year for the last 15 to more years. And that is, we want kids to be doing and working through math by the math practices. And those are those 8 listed on there, and they are also in our Kansas standards. When standards were written for mathematics, they were written as your content standards, like I talked about with your bands. But your practice standards are how we want to see kids doing math. So if I want them to be learning about quadratics, how do I want to see that they are engaging in that learning? So we want them to make sense of problems. We want them to persevere in solving those and not just give up when they don't know how to do it. We want them to model with mathematics. How does that look like in the real world? If I'm talking about quadratics, I have lots of kids who like to shoot a basket or swing a golf club, and those are parabolas. That's what I'm doing. So how do we model mathematics? How do we get kids to critique the reasoning of others and work together? Math is about structure, and math is about repeated reasoning. It's in our world, it's in nature, it's everywhere. So how do we get kids to start looking at that and using that as they solve problems? So when we started to look for a resource, these 8 practices were what we were focusing on. NCTM also has your teacher practices, and they also have 8 things that we want teachers to be doing. Obviously, the first one is they need to pick a goal. What is the goal? That comes from our standards. But the second thing we need is, what is a task? What kind of task do we give our kids that is engaging that they will work on? And a lot of times as you look for resources, this is hard to find. And so our teachers spend lots of time searching for different things that they can use. So we were really looking for a resource that had that embedded in it and allowed our teachers to be able to use that to make sure our kids were engaging in these practices. The third point up there is procedural fluency coming from conceptual understanding. And how I usually talk to people about this is, how many of you remember back when you learned to divide fractions? What comes to mind when you learn to divide fractions? Flip and multiply, I hear, right? Keep, change, flip, all the different little scenarios. Can anybody tell me why we do that? Not my math teachers. A lot of people have no idea, but it's what they were taught, it's what they did, and they did that procedure. So then when I got to a problem that you wanted me to add fractions, or you mixed them all up, oh crud, I think I'd keep, change, flip. Or do I keep, change, flip here? I don't know. Do you? I don't know. We'll just keep going. They make no sense of the math that they are looking at. And so we want to make sure that we are giving kids that conceptual understanding. And to do all that, the other 5 things in there that teachers want kids to be doing is we want them to be resilient. So they need to struggle and struggle together and use each other to come up with solutions. The teacher needs to be able to pose those questions that really help kids continue to work. We also want to make sure that teacher is helping bring those connections alive for the students. So these are the basis of what we were looking for. So I want you to kind of feel that for just a minute. You guys have been sitting and getting, was what I call it, for, well, a good hour and a half now. So if we want to think about, I think I'm pretty loud. I have 4 numbers up here, 9, 16, 25, and 43. And my question to you is, which one doesn't belong?
43.
Who said 43? Can you explain why you said 43?
The others are 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5.
So she
Squares,
said,
thank
"Others
you,
are 3
math
times
teacher.
3, 4 times 4, 25. And you said what? What did you follow up on that? They're perfect squares. What do you mean by a perfect square? Does anyone know what we mean by a perfect square? Why are those numbers called perfect squares? So number times itself. What else? 2 equal numbers, the same 2 numbers multiplied together.
What do you see?
What do you see? Why didn't I call them perfect triangles? What do they create? They create a square. So many of us learned when we were kids that those are called perfect squares because 3 times 3, 4. No one ever told us to make it. It's called a perfect square because it makes it squares. All right, what else doesn't belong?
16.
16. Why does 16 not belong?
Because it's the only even number up there.
It's the only even number up there. Someone else. Why does 9 not belong?
It's the only single digit.
It's the only single digit.
I think 9 doesn't belong because you can't make it add up to 7.
No, can you explain what you mean by it cannot add up to 7?
Well, the digits in the number 16, 1 plus 6 is 7, 2 plus 5 is 7, 4 plus 3 is 7. But there's nothing to add 9 to, so it doesn't belong.
Really not loud enough. No one's ever told me that. Online. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so did anyone else, how many never saw that, 2 and 5, 4 and 3, and 1 and 6 is 7? You guys all saw it the minute it was up there? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. What else? Why else can 43 not be there? Go ahead and help us, Christina. It's a prime number. What does it mean to be a prime number? Factors 1 in itself. All right, the last thing, no one said 25. Why is 25 doesn't belong? The fourth, when I did this with a group of 4th graders, the little girl raised her hand and said 25 is the only one that represents money. Right? So the reason we do this is because on this one little activity that takes about 2 minutes, everyone can get involved. Every child can answer. Every kid can give a reason. And then I can also expand all the mathematics that we talked about even numbers, square numbers, prime numbers, money in something. These are the kinds of things we want our kids to be doing. This is how I want to build a culture of learners in the classroom with math. So quick timeline, we started this back in last summer, where we took a variety of resources and started looking through those, and we went ahead and pre-screened those resources. We assembled our team, our cadre team, which was 42 total people that we ended up having on that cadre. We then started to work in September and October, and I'll tell you more as we go through what we did. November and February is when we came together to really start filling out our rubric and making our decisions, and then here we are this evening with our board presentation. So on that process, we did have to assemble the team, and we did have to pre-screen. We then piloted, evaluated, submitted our proposal, and then we will have implementation. In that first round, this gives you through the feeders, all of the people that were on our team. Again, we had a couple elementary schools for those 6th grade teachers. We had all middle school and high schools represented on the team. We started with our rubric. So when we took our 7 resources that we pre-screened, we had to take them down. We used pre-screening tools. This is the rubric from the state of Kansas. It has also got lots of criteria in there that is research-based. And so some of the items that we had, we took away. For instance, we had a Desmos curriculum that's excellent, has a lot of great things, but it really doesn't cover everything we need. So we pre-screened and ended up for middle school that did iReady and CPM. Our high school did 3. They did Reveal, which is by McGraw-Hill. They did Carnegie Learning, and then they also did CPM. As you can see, this is actually a class of students working on one of the pilots. It was specifically iReady. The team members that we had on our team, we went ahead in September and October. We did training with the vendor. We had the vendor come in 2 times. When I talk about training and professional development, they're 2 different things. Training is how do I use the resource. Professional development goes along with all of those things that I talked about on those student practices and teacher practices. And we continue to have professional learning on that all the way through the process, both from the vendor and from myself and Joanna Roach, who is our K-6 coordinator for math and science. Team members engaged in the students in the activities. They were excellent. This group up here, excellent. They had to change what they are doing with a new resource, pilot it with integrity so that we got a really good idea of what that product will do for us, and they did an amazing job. While they were piloting during that second quarter, the vendors were also there to help them if they needed it, along with myself, going out into classrooms where it was being piloted so we could see the kiddos. They were also collecting evidence during this time. So they had different rubrics that they were filling out. They collected student work, and they did a rubric with that. They had students complete a Google form that talked about a specific activity or lesson that they did, and then they brought all this together when our cadre met. So if 3 of us were all doing iReady, we did the same activity. We were sharing back that information, both from the student lens and from the teacher lens as they were starting to look at different pieces. They then came together, and this is a group of the people who piloted high school CPM, and they were coming together with the rubric, all of the data that they had come up with, and they were like, what can we pick? What on the rubric does this cover? How does it cover it? What do we think? And they put together posters that did that we had all around the room so we could look at the things that everyone had worked on. So coming to all that conclusion, the middle school did pick iReady, even though they did iReady and CPM, mainly because what iReady has to offer is a personalized learning path. And so we are recommending that we purchase that personalized learning path for our kids in Math 6, Math 7, and Math 8, because it allows us to target very specific Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention for those kiddos, because there is a diagnostic test that the kiddos take in the fall, winter, and spring that then directly links to the teacher and their personalized plan. And so that I can take a stretch growth of a kiddo that might be a grade level behind, possibly even 2 grade levels behind in a particular standard, and help move them on their personalized path. It also allows me as a teacher to have that data right on my screen to help me, how do I need to group kids? What do I need to do? Where do we need to go? And my teachers can attest to that, of those who did iReady with those testing pieces. There's manipulatives that also come with that, because our kids should be doing math with manipulatives. That helps them with that conceptual understanding and is a big piece of their learning. There is professional learning that is also in this. iReady does not just give you the product and say goodbye. They are there with you. They meet with teachers. They meet with administrators, they meet with instructional coaches, they meet with our SPED departments. So they help everyone along the way throughout the entire year and beyond as we implement. So iReady is going to be a great place for our 6, 7, and 8 kids to get what they need to then move into high school. High school picked CPM. It is also 7 years. It also has classroom set materials. It also has professional learning. They get professional learning for 3 straight days in the summer, and then as we start to be creative of other ways that we can do it, they are getting that professional learning on how I implement. They also come and work with the teachers during the year. They do even coaching with those teachers, with admin, with myself along the way as we go. So it's not just, here you go, first year and now you're done. It's a continued process. The great thing about both of these together is if I talk back about our student practices, when I am looking at iReady, I have a 3 process, and they call it Try, connect, and, or not, try, discuss, connect, right? CPM has launch, explore, closure. Those middle sections, that's where our kids are working. Our kids are engaged in the problem, working together in collaborative groups as they solve problems. And that teacher helps with the launch and the closure, making those connections. So it's really nice of this building block from 6, 7, and 8 to high school. Our next steps deal with implementation. What we are looking at here is a 2-year implementation plan, and I will explain why. In year 1, if I am a 6th grade teacher currently, and I teach both science and math. If you remember from the last board meeting, they are adopting new science materials, K-6. If I'm a 6th grade teacher and I teach both of those, learning 2 new resources the same year is a lot for a teacher. And it's a lot to put on them, and we did not want to do that. So we gave them choice at the 6th grade. You had some choice. So if I was a teacher that, I only taught 6th grade math, maybe it didn't matter. Or I did math and social studies, I'm choosing to start that process, all right? Middle school, 7th and 8th grade, they will start iReady, all right? For high school, the classes that we are looking at is Integrated Algebra Geometry 1, Integrated Algebra Geometry 2, our Geometry and Honors Geometry, and our Algebra 2 and Honors Algebra 2. With a process like this and getting our kids doing these practices, some of our standards change a little bit from maybe what we had in Integrated 1 and Integrated 2. All the same standards, just maybe where they were placed. So we gave our departments some choice here. I could get on board this year and I could go, or I could wait till next year and get on. And our departments, it's been amazing. They're very excited. And so we had we did have all 5 high schools pick to start with Integrated 1, since that would be the building block. Some are going to start with Integrated 1 and Algebra 2. And then we have some that are going to also add geometry. So then the following year, all kids will be in, because then that process continues to go. So we feel like when you do some change and some different things happen, and we have professional learning for our teachers, everyone, to make it well and to do it well and to make it sustainable, we wanted to make sure we did it right. And so that professional learning piece is a really important piece of where we want to go. So that gives that information. All right, I talked a lot. But I do have my teachers who have been so nice enough to have taught all day or been a principal all day and still come here and it's dark outside. But any questions that you might have for myself or for them regarding the pilot or either one of the resources?
Well, I'm just going to start off by saying that a very informal poll of all of our elementary students that come through and do the pledge, I would say probably by far the most favorite class is math. I don't know, it's just my informal polling. And I love this conversation tonight just about how do we keep that, this is one opportunity to keep that passion going. But I'm going to look to my board members to see if there's any questions. Ms. Boardman, lead us off.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation, and thank you so much, Ms. Springfield and the rest of the teachers, Ms. Lang, and everyone for giving up part of your evening to be here, especially, like you said, after a long day of school with kids, who I'm sure are just perfect. So I'm sure there weren't any problems at school today. But so math is one of those topics that I think for some children can be scary, intimidating. Once you get behind, it's hard to get caught up, right? It's hard. You just feel like you're falling further and further behind. With this curriculum, can you speak to that a little bit? Can you help, as a mom, as a board member, as someone that's very sensitive to children and really making sure that kids feel good about themselves and can strive and grow in whatever areas that they, are choosing, I guess, for lack of a better word. How do you feel about this curriculum and making sure that all kids are really kind of set up for success? I mean, obviously the kid has to do some work, but.
I'm going to does one of you want to answer from what you've done? I mean, you don't have to.
I can.
Thank you. I can answer too.
Well, since I'm in sixth grade, I do the integrated math 6, but I've also taught math 6 many years. And I love the program because we've been teaching Engage, and all of our teachers have had to go everywhere to find special extra examples, extra problems, go to different, thank goodness now we have IXL too from the past few years, but this is a one-stop shop. There's so many programs on the MyPath Learning and they have interactive games. I was talking to Joanna Roach about one of my students that she came to watch, and she's like, he's got to come to the board meeting because he is so enthusiastic about it. He loves it, and all of the kids loved they give him brain breaks. They, just the math, My Plan is very interactive, and then we can assign different paths for them in different lessons. We can do small groups. We have an intervention time in elementary school, so that helps us get those small groups sorted faster so that they're ready to go on to middle school. And the program has outlined a 6th and 7th, like an integrated math class as well. I'm continuing it right now because I love it so much. So I'm happy to do that. But I just think it's just a one-stop shop, and it just provides so many other resources that we can use in class as well. So, yes, please do.
Yeah, so I teach mainly CT classes, so I have a lot of the special education students, and I'm really excited about the MyPath Learning because the diagnostic test that they take, it helps find those gaps that they have, and then the program itself assigns lessons specifically to work through those gaps, and then I can also assign lessons for what we're doing in class, and then that gives them a little bit of choice when they have their time on MyPath. And when they're in there, they wear those listening devices they love so much. And there's actually little videos in there, and it's like their own personal little tutor while they're working through MyPath. So the kids really like it, and it's engaging for them. One of their favorite things too is the activity that we did at the beginning. That is directly from the resource, and they really like that, and it gives every single kid an entry point, and they can participate, and they enjoyed it.
I was just going to add the 0 entry as well with that. But also, at the beginning, so it has the bell work was basically what we did. But then the next step is you pose a problem to the students, and then they come up with their own strategy to solve the problem. It does not have to be the same as their neighbors. It could be, so there are many, many, many different ways that they can solve that problem. And then you come together and you talk through, hey, George did this. I don't have a George, by the way. But George did this way. And so it was really cool how George did that. So, hey, George, do you want to put that up on the board so that others can see how you did that? Did anybody else? Maybe somebody else did that. Did somebody else do something similar to that? And then you build off of that. And it was really pretty cool because of that piece. That's what I loved about the iReady program. So.
And I want to just make sure to be really clear too, the activity like that we did at the beginning, it is about building a culture of learners. So some of the other things that we do in both the CPM and the iReady is random grouping. And it's truly random grouping that the kids see. You can tell the kids you randomly grouped them, but if they don't see it, they don't believe you. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of things that they do, and that changes all the time. So I'm not just working with these 2 kids or my friends here or this kiddo that, he always gets the right answer and this kid doesn't. I'm working with everyone because at any time I'm going to work with anyone just like they are in the world. And so that is also key to build that culture. And with the MyPath, even though it's on the computer, it is a small portion. So I want to make sure, we don't learn math on the computer. We learn math by doing, but that helps fill those holes.
Can I add to the book? My students love the book because we don't have a book, and so it is colorful, and the problems are relatable to them, and it's consumable, so they can rip out things. There's a family letter. We use the book 45 minutes, 50 minutes of just engaging problems. So when I said the MyPath, that's for our intervention time that we use that too. So The book is great.
Do you guys want to add anything for CPM before we finish? Just because they're two different.
So at the high school level, we're using CPM, and you mentioned like a student who's absent or something like that. Well, CPM does a very good job of spiraling, so maybe they missed a little bit of it that day, but probably next week or next month, we're going to come back to it, and they're going to get it again and again and again, and they're not going to be assessed on it until they really have understood it. So, like right now, I know that I have students who are frustrated. They're like, we just learned this 2 days ago and we already have a test on it. And CPM doesn't really do that. They give a lot more spiraling, a lot more time to really fully understand the concept before they're assessed on it. And that was one thing I liked about it as well.
Of course, there's more. So as an administrator going through the process, I just want to let people understand I'm very passionate as to how much time was taken just to get this. And through Holly's work and taking us all there to see it, making sure that our students are getting the right curriculum. And in Shawnee Mission, we want the best, and we do expect the best for our students. And this is one that I feel I wouldn't be here to really bring it and talk to you about this tonight, but really the reality of the real world is collaborating and coming with solutions, and that's what we want for our students, not just now, but for the future, so when they do leave Shawnee Mission, they do stand out. They are the top leaders coming out. So just want to add that to what we're going to get out of this.
Mr. Westbrook, did you have a question?
I have to observe that after all my eloquent devotion to art, at the end of the day, it's math. Walter Isaacson is a really renowned biographer who just published not long ago, authored a book on Elon Musk. But years ago, he did a book on Albert Einstein. It's considered to be the definitive work on Einstein. And he quotes Einstein as saying on his deathbed, his final words are math. We need more math. I think he should have come to you guys. Very impressive. You make it so relevant and so exciting, and we're blessed to have this kind of a report. Thank you.
Yeah, CPM's motto is more math, more people.
I appreciate the opening exercise, too. That was really fun to think about all the different ways you can interpret numbers. And what questions do you want to ask about those numbers often drives that. That was fun. The CPM has the word college in the title. Can you speak to how that might support kids interested in going into trades or other I'm assuming that's post-secondary education. Can you define that?
It's the name of their college preparatory math, but it's all based on our high school standards. But it allows any kiddo, like we said, the entry point. So even kids who end up going to a trade, you're starting to have a math course in order to get farther in that. And so it only continues to help kids at all levels for that. So the name sometimes can be like it's scary, like what does that really mean? They also have CPM as their 3 pillars, which is curriculum-based, problem solving, and their M is that mixed space practice, that spiral. So it kind of goes both ways, but I have a personal child that was on that path of trade school, and he still had to have math in his courses in order to fix a boat.
If I can add to that as well, CPM, or College Preparatory Math, a few years ago changed its name officially to CPM to address what you're talking about, so that there wasn't confusion that it was only for a certain group of kids.
I appreciate that. Okay.
I have a quick clarification. I always like to talk about this because I think sometimes it gets confused, especially maybe with Kansas legislators sometimes, but I want to be clear that curriculum and instructional resources are 2 different things, and we are improving tonight. The recommendation is to approve these 2 instructional resources. The curriculum are actually state standards, priority standards, and so we're not approving curriculum per se, we are improving instructional resources. I like to think about it personally, and I like to debate this with people about is it the architect or is it the builder, right? And the bottom line is you can't build something without both. So you can't be successful in a classroom without a really strong written curriculum and a really strong instructional resource. So this instructional resource really helps these ladies and all the other teachers out there that don't have to go looking for the resource to teach the state standards or the curriculum as written. I also just want to take time to thank you all, not only for being here tonight away from your families, but taking the time to pilot an instructional resource takes a lot of extra time. It takes extra planning, and I just want to recognize that for you all, and not only you all, but all of those listening or those that aren't listening that still chose to pilot for us. So thank you so much for that.
And yes, thank you. And I would like, and that's become almost an institutional way of making recommendations for instructional resources. So I feel like you all went into this knowing that it would be very time-consuming.
It's a lot of extra work, but at the end of the day, it also helps us get a really strong resource, I think.
Thank you. Appreciate it. This was very informative. Thank you so much. Dr. Hubbard, I just want to let them go. Is the focus of instructional resources starting for secondary at 6th grade something new that we're doing or something we have been doing?
Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the resources are aligned to 612, K-5 or pre-K-5, 612, because we are one of the few places where 6th grade is in the elementary school. And so for the alignment of resources, we have been pairing 6th grade more with the secondary.
And the standards as well, not just the resources.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I believe our final presentation tonight is regarding the strategic planning update. 3.4, Dr. Hubbard?
Yeah, so we're moving right along with strategic planning. Dr. Neal's going to give us a quick update of where we are to date.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back with you to share where we are in the strategic plan cycle 2 process. And if you could, thank you very much. You will recall that we had the steering committee began the work in February. And as part of that, they looked at and evaluated and ended up retaining the beliefs, mission, parameters, and objectives that were established originally in cycle 1 to continue for cycle 2. Ms. Trenholm, if you could click on that graphic image right there and open that up, that'll allow us to see that a little bit better. And I want to give a shout out to Mandy Lavelle and the communications department for putting that together. If you were with us in cycle 1, you might have recalled a graphic that we had there. This time we've tried to make it just a little bit more infographic related, so it kind of comes off the page a little bit more, but that will be with us through the draft process, and then ultimately, once the plan is considered by you and approved, we'll continue to utilize that through the process to help people understand the beliefs, the mission, those parameters that are sort of the guide rails, the objectives, which our earlier presenters just did a marvelous job in both of their presentations of really articulating those 3 objectives around personalized learning, college and career readiness, and interpersonal skills. And then if we could go back to the next slides. What the steering committee did establish was the strategies for our cycle 2 plan. This time we have 6 strategies, as you may recall. Several of them are familiar, that are very similar to what we may have had in the cycle 1. You could go ahead and advance. So we have strategy 1 around learning. Strategy 2 is around belonging. Strategy 3 is our people strategy, and that actually coming straight out of the steering committee relates to not only the people that are our staff members and our students, but also our families. Strategy 4 around technology. Strategy 5 is specific to mental health, and then strategy 6, facilities. So our next step in the process is to establish action teams, and we have done that. And I'll share just a little bit with you. Our action teams were established for each of the 6 strategies. Each action team is made up of roughly 30 members. There is one, maybe 2 that are just under that. Learning has a little bit higher number of members, but roughly around that. Around a third of those members were appointed so that we could have people on those teams that would have information that would be helpful as we're processing the strategies and getting those action plans. And then about 2/3 of them were selected via lottery. To help you understand what that lottery process looked like, I thought you might have some questions around that. We established a random number that was generated, and then we assigned a number to each applicant. That list was sorted from lowest to highest. When we started assembling the action teams, we began with those that had the smallest number of applicant requests, because you might recall that in that survey, we asked people to indicate their preferences, first choice, second choice, et cetera, and also to identify their role that they would self-identify, whether it be an administrator, a certified team member, a classified team member, student, et cetera. And so we started with those that we had the fewest number, right, to begin with. And so for those smaller number groups, we didn't necessarily always have to go to the lottery to do that, because many of those we had enough, okay? But as those groups and requests increased, where we had multiple applicants, say, multiple people from the same feeder pattern that were interested in being on, say, the learning team or one of the other action teams, then we went to that lottery, that random number, and we selected the person who had the smallest randomly assigned number to represent on those teams. So we're very excited. Our action team leaders, they were trained last week. Dr. Gunn was back with us and trained them to help facilitate the next step in the work. And this week, on Wednesday, we will be excited to welcome, Dr. Hubbard, I think it's around 200, a little over 200 members to the strategy action teams. They'll be here with us, beginning their work on Wednesday. And they will likely, as they begin their conversations, we have 3 scheduled meetings for them, March 27th, April 10th, and May 1st. But as they decide what their kind of research questions are and what things they really want to look at as part of that, digging into that work, they will likely have some smaller groups that will go and meet and do some work in between to bring back to those specific large team meetings. And our action team leaders will also be meeting in between just to make sure that if there's anything that they need to collaborate on, or areas where maybe around professional development or different things down the road that we could connect, we'll be able to do that in between, and they can take that back then to their action team meetings. Our presentation then by the action teams back to the steering committee will occur on June 6th, and then we'll put all the final touches on and look forward to presenting that finalized draft, bringing that back to you for your consideration on June 24th. And of course, in between, I'll be bringing you updates. I will be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. I'm excited for the action teams to start. It'll be fun. All right, any questions? That was very thorough.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neal.
Graphics awesome too, by the way. I agree. All right, we have 3 more discussion items. They are policy, board policy. And Dr. Hubbard, do you want to, they're all first reads. You want to take those 3 items?
Yeah, so all first reads, the first one, JGFGBA. And I have them backwards in my write-up. I don't know why, but KASB made minor revisions to this policy. And beyond the minor revisions, additional revisions to our policy are being recommended to bring it in line with KASB model policy language. It has been vetted by Policy Review Committee.
All right.
Can I add something on that one, Dr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Okay, so the Policy Review Committee, we discussed this one pretty heavily, and in part because it has to do with the self-administration of EpiPens or using an inhaler for kids with asthma. And the state requires that families fill out a permission form, or that their doctors fill out this permission form, and you have to get it from your doctor to allow your child to carry the inhaler or the EpiPen. And I raised the issue with regards to, it seemed like an unnecessary step, because if you have the prescription from your doctor, you're authorized to utilize it, and because it is life-saving recovery medication, it does seem awkward to put another layer between a child being able to carry an EpiPen and having an additional form filled out, since these are prescription medications. But this is so as to be in compliance with the state statute that protects us as a district from liability. So there's not really a workaround for it right now. So it could be another list of things to provide to the legislature on opportunities for improvement. Just because I can say from personal experience that if you have a child with a life-threatening condition and you think you have to have a piece of paper filled out prior to them being able to carry their life-saving medication, I would then be in violation of the policy, because I would take a few days to get the note from the doctor, and I'm sure as heck not sending my kid to school without life-saving medication. And I think that it is, in general, unwise to craft policy that is likely to be violated potentially, even if not for malicious or ill-intended reasons. But because it protects us from that liability, there's not really, we have to protect the district because of the state statute and the way it's written. And so I just wanted, I understand the difficulty, and I'm not trying to make this more complicated than it seems, but there's an inherent odd
It's almost
conflict to it.
verbatim from state statute.
So it's being in compliance with state statute.
Yes.
That is the quandary.
And this has happened with other things before, but I just wanted to highlight it here. This isn't necessarily ideological or anything in nature. This is just, it is what it is.
And it is also helpful to, just from a process perspective, if the policy committee has conversations about any particular, to kind of recap what those are to the board. That's helpful. I don't know if anybody else on policy committee wants to add to that, or. Okay, all right. 3.6.
So policy JDDAB. This is also a KASB recommended new policy to address the gap in student disciplinary framework related to students bringing and distributing prescription or over-the-counter medication. This change was not made in the current policy JDDA regarding drug-free schools, and so it very closely aligns with the language of federal law on drug-free schools. So this new policy specifically addresses authority to discipline a student for the misuse of medication. And then questions there?
And this is KASB recommendation to include
Yeah, all
this
three
federal
of these
guideline?
are, all
Yep.
three, yeah.
Okay.
And then the final one is policy EE, which is around food service management. KASB is recommending that districts adopt more detailed policy language on unpaid meal charges in order to meet federal requirements. This policy balances federal requirements that school districts attempt to recoup unpaid meals. And I will tell you, we had this policy and it was pretty clean. It just, putting our process in aligned us with KASB as a recommendation. So those are the three policies, and again, all of them are either KASB revised recommendations or KASB new policy recommendation. Questions?
Any questions there? Okay, so those are first reads, and we'll.
First reads, if you have any questions or language suggestions, I would love to have those by next Friday before second read were to come.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the work.
And the second read won't actually come until the second meeting in April.
Oh,
No, we
action.
only have one. Sorry, April 14th. So the second read will come April 14th.
Do you miss us when we only meet once a month?
They do not.
We always miss you, but one a month is great.
All right, consent, okay. So we are on consent items. There are a number of consent items. So if we take those from 4.1 through 6.3, so a couple of bond consent and the other are just general consent items. If there's no request to change that list, could I have motion to approve?
Move approval, Borgman.
Thanks. Second?
Second, Ousley.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, now we have 6 action items. The first, 7.1, approval of addendum to contract with Maxim Healthcare. Dr. Harburg?
Yes, so this is a contract we had with Maxim Healthcare staffing for nursing and supplemental school staffing as needed for 23-24. We initially estimated $300,000, and due to continued vacancies and required nursing services, we are requesting an increase to $555,000. This will be paid for operating funds through special education.
All right, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Owsley.
Second?
Second, Westbrook.
All right, so would you say this is an example of rising costs for providing special education services?
This one and the next one as well.
All right.
And we also had one, at least one in the consent agenda, if not more.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, 7.2, approval of addendum to contract with supplemental.
Again, with supplemental health care, we approved this earlier in the year for a cost of $240,000, and we are requesting to up that to $280,000, again, paid with operating funds through special education.
All right, motion to approve? So moved, Borkman. All right, second?
Second, Owsley.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, next is the iReady instructional resource that we just heard about.
So recommending approval of iReady for grades 6 through 8. The total cost is $1,639,966.
This English major moves approval, Owsley.
All right. Do I have a second?
This English major seconds.
All right. Any questions?
Dr. Hubbard, I just want this journalism major. Would like to just compliment the team that presented tonight, Miss McCarty, and the team did such a phenomenal job. It was probably one of the best presentations that I've seen in the boardroom. So I really, just if you could pass that sentiment
Absolutely,
along.
they did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
It's fun to watch professional development with them as well, or participate. We've all had the opportunity to do that this year.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And the CPM math curriculum 7.4.
So recommending approval of CPM for integrated algebra geometry, integrated algebra geometry 2, geometry, honors geometry, algebra 2, and honors algebra 2 as the core math resource. Total cost $874,958, and it will be paid from the textbook fund or instructional resource fund.
All right. It's in our yep, okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval, Borkman.
Second?
Second, Owsley. Oh.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have approval of arts resolution 7.5. And I've asked Ms. Boyd-Nerona to read
Do you want me to
this
read
one?
it?
I think it's
It's
linked.
in
If you
the
click on it.
executive contract.
I have it pulled up if you.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Borgman,
you
that'd be
wanna
great.
read?
I will read the first. I'm reading the first.
Go for it.
All righty. Whereas with my mic on. Whereas all students have the right to an arts education that includes dance, media arts, music, theater, and visual arts, taught by certified arts educators in partnership with community providers. Whereas arts education has the power to change students' lives. Whereas arts education is a key to reigniting students' learning in a post-COVID-19 world. Whereas arts education helps nurture healthy, inclusive communities where all points of view are respected. Whereas arts education experiences help students understand their own cultural roots and appreciate others' cultural roots and traditions. Whereas arts education supports the social and emotional well-being of students and fosters a more positive, safer school environment. Whereas arts education is part of the well-rounded education for every student as outlined in the Every Student Succeeds Act and in state law. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Unified School District Number 512, Johnson County, Kansas, the Shawnee Mission School District pledges to maintain and grow our arts education programs in the 2023-24 school year and beyond, adopted by the Board of Education of Unified School District Number 512, Johnson County, Kansas, this 25th day of March 2024.
Thank you. Ms. Borgman, can I have a second?
Second, Borgman.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And our last action item here is approval of proclamation for National School Library Month, and I've asked Ms. Humphrey to read that.
Thank you. Whereas the Shawnee Mission School Library Program is to ensure that students and staff are effective users of ideas and information, and whereas the school librarian's role is to provide the leadership and expertise necessary to ensure that the library program is an integral part of the instructional program of the school, and whereas the Board of Education has entrusted the school librarian in each school to teach the skills of locating and using information through traditional resources and new technologies, to provide literature appreciation activities, and to guide and encourage content and recreational reading to every student. And whereas lifelong learning begins and is systematically developed through the school library curriculum of the elementary and secondary schools, and whereas the school library program contributes to the individual growth and development of all students while fostering both excellence and equity in education, and whereas the school librarians of Shawnee Mission Schools have dedicated themselves to work for quality library programs for all students, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Shawnee Mission School District does hereby proclaim April 2024 as School Library Month in all Shawnee Mission schools, and calls upon school administrators, teachers, students, and patrons of the school district to recognize and support this action and to participate throughout the month of April in the celebration of School Library Month.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. Sorry, Mr. Westbrook, get my words out. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, do we have any comments from board members I'd like to share? Ms. Borgman.
Quick shout out to Shawnee Mission Northwest men's basketball team for going undefeated and winning state. I believe this is their first state title, and to have an undefeated season is absolutely incredible. So I know there's a celebration at Northwest tomorrow. I wish I could be there, but just so happy for the school and for the team and just all the hard work and dedication that went into the season.
Thanks.
I'll add a congratulations to the Lady Raiders at Shawnee Mission South, who took state, 6A state, and the boys team at Shawnee Mission South only lost to Northwest at the end, so I think we're like second in the state.
Okay, I like it. I like it. All right, Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, I wanted to use my time on the record to shout out a couple people too. I love that we do that. So this last Friday, board member Himbry and I got to attend Noche de Baile at Shawnee Mission North. It was truly a spectacle. I mean, talk about one Shawnee Mission, just having all 5 feeder pattern high school students attend an all Spanish dance, you know, at the Brick House. It was incredible. About 300 students, we believe, for the first time event like this. I think it's incredible. Wanted to shout out Stephanie Wixon, Audrey Lauber, Heather Hayden, Emily Nelson, and Jackie Madrigal from Shawnee Mission North, who helped facilitate that along with the students. But of course, representatives from all the other high schools, teachers, students that helped, admin. It was incredible, and I hope we continue to do that on social media. I think many of you might have seen it, but they all did some time together and put out a little video, and I thought it was really cool representing the entire school community. Secondly, I wanted just to give a shout out to Miss Alyssa Passamore, who will be leaving Hawker Grove. And I only want to use this time because of how significant her impact has been at Hawker Grove. She'll be leaving to go work with KNEA and service and advocate for teachers across the state, and I think that's incredible. But you know the people that make impacts on your school community, and I wanted to take this time to call her out, to be grateful. She's normally here, so I know she's not today, but I hope she gets this message, hears it. I know she's watching somewhere right now, but wanted to just give her the credit where credit's due. I know students that have taken her class, my sister being one of them, and having nothing but great things to say. We're talking about art tonight, and I just think that's perfect. She's been a great example for so many of us in the school district. And then lastly, Dr. Case, who's leaving Hawker Grove as well. He is critical to the culture that has been built in the last 5, 6, 7 years at Hawker Grove, and I'm very grateful for his service to the North community, to the students and families that love him. I've heard it from multiple parents already. They're very upset that he's leaving. But I know he'll be joining a great team up here, and we're very excited for him, but just grateful for his service to our school community. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, Mr. Westbrook?
I do. I wrote a letter to Shawnee Tinsley today and wanted to make sure that I commented about her. She was a lifelong educator in the Shawnee Mission School District. The Kansas City Star recently did a little story on her, and I thought, is this the same Bonnie Tinsley I once knew as my principal in elementary school? Also as a colleague who was a principal of several schools when I worked here many, many years ago. At age 97, she's decided to step away from volunteer work for the Johnson County Public Library System and celebrated the opening of the new branch of the library, replacing the Johnson County branch on Antioch. So it was an amazing thing to read about her life and to see that she, after leaving the school district, went on to have a distinguished career as a volunteer, still involved in literacy and education, libraries. It's a wonderful inspiration. So thank you, Mrs. Tinsley, for all your great work.
All right, thank you. Ms. Housley?
I just wanted to congratulate Danny Robeson, a sixth grader at Tomahawk, for being Kansas State PTA Student of the Year for his special education advocacy that he has done at the statewide level and at the federal level. He's a super active and engaged kiddo who actually listens to every meeting. So just FYI, he's also making sure we do our jobs. The statewide PTA convention is on April 13th, and he will receive his award there. And so I was telling Dr. Hubbard, I really hope that she can be there as our Superintendent of the Year, and then maybe Todd Dane as our Principal of the Year, and then maybe Annette Rodriguez as our Athletic Director of the Year. Annette Gonzalez, yes, as our Athletic Director of the Year, so we could have all of our of the year people in one spot. I would like to see that happen, but maybe that's just my wish. Okay, thank you.
That's great. All right. Okay, well, thank you.
Can I add one more? Sorry.
Yes, please do.
Dr. Schumacher, do you want to share the completion of executive leadership team?
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. Yeah, so you guys voted on and approved the contract offer to Pam Lewis. If you guys, I think everyone knows Pam Lewis, but she's been a member of the school district for a number of years in many capacities. Principal, director of elementary, director of HR, and she's going to fill Dr. Stubblefield's shoes really well, do some transition with him. So we're very excited to wrap up the ELT.
I would just add that I've known Pam Lewis for a really long time, that I don't know if she would call it the privilege, but I'm going to say she had the privilege of having all 5 of my children as their school principal for, I don't know, like a 12-year span or something like crazy like that. But the thing about Pam that I appreciated so much as a parent, that I had kids on really both ends of the learning pendulum, from really a kid that was exceptionally bright that needed to be pushed regularly and another kid that really struggled, and she made sure every single day that the needs were met for both of those kids and the 3 in the middle. So I really love that she's going to be back on the leadership and learning team, because she is extremely passionate about learning, and she is passionate about leadership and growing all aspects of our system, whether it be I would even go mentoring students at the high school level that want to be teachers, and really pushing that envelope, as well as classified staff, really pushing teachers to be the best that they can be. So I'm excited for her to be on the learning side, or back on the learning side. I know she's been in HR for the last 3 years, but she'll be a great addition to the team.
That's exciting.
I'll just add one last thing. She will not have any issue filling my shoes with her high heels.
Don't forget the pom-poms.
And she can do the splits.
That's right, she can.
I remember doing a tour of an elementary school, and 2 students gave the tour, and Pam Lewis came to join along, and the students were going very slow and showing me everything on the walls as we were going. And I think was killing her to walk that slow. I mean, she moves. She's a fast walker. All right, okay, so I believe that concludes our board comments, and we will adjourn for executive session, and no business will be conducted following executive session. So I will just say that our next board meeting is April 15th, and I'm not adjourning this meeting, right? Because we're going to executive, right? Right, okay, so that was my last piece. Okay, so Ms. Boyd-Noreno, could you read our motion to adjourn to executive session?
I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss litigation with our legal counsel pursuant to the exception from matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under HOMA, and that the board will reconvene in this room at 8:50.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, the board invites Dr. Hubbard, Dr. Gilhouse, Dr. Schumacher, Dr. Stubblefield, Rachel England, David Smith, and Russell Knapp to join us. Now.
All right, do I have a second? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you all. It probably happens more often.